Raul from Animal Music here. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the sound design behind Mountain Dew Frostbite. This was a really fun project that we got to do with the team over at Think Motive. Let's check it out. That's obviously the project without any music, just sound design. And so the goal here was, how do we make these already badass looking sharks truly sound badass? Now, obviously, we don't have sharks on hand to just record. It's not a thing. So we had to kind of design this using a bunch of different elements, different sounds from different sound libraries, and using maybe certain sounds you wouldn't expect to use in combination. A big part of what we were going for here with the team was to make everything sound really icy and crunchy. So it's a lot of those elements, specifically when we have this kind of fin cutting through, just some of those ice cracking elements. Got a little bit of wind in there. So we wanted it to sound really, really crunchy and heavy. And you do that by adding crunchy higher end elements and a bit of the lower end rumble. To give a sense of the speed, we also added some of these kind of like wind elements, make it very frosty. Now on top of that, we also have the sound of the actual sharks breaching here. We wanted to be careful here to not get too bright with the sound. We didn't want it to sound like glass breaking, but you can actually hear a little bit of that glass sound, which by itself sounds pretty extreme, but when you combine it with everything, it gives you a sensation of a bit of a cracking here. We have a little bit more of this low end kind of stuff here. Put it all together. You know, I don't think sharks actually sound like this, but we wanted to make them sound really mean and big and angry. We have a bit of a lion roar here, mixed with like a big... Yeah, that's like actually a big fiery explosion during the breach there. We wanted to give it very violent sort of movement coming out of that iceberg. We have another. It's a big, that's kind of like a Bigfoot sort of roar. And again, by itself, it doesn't sound all that angry, but when you put it in with that lion roar, it gives it that low end and really makes it sound big and aggressive. Again, big ice chunk. It's when you really combine everything that it really sounds big and fierce. So an interesting thing here is we really wanted to make that kind of movement here, like the fin movement, feel like it was really sloshing around that water. So we'd use this kind of like, it's actually the sound I believe of just like a river just streaming, and it's an aggressive like whitewater rapid sort of thing. Then you add a little bit of wind. Obviously we don't have wind underwater, but when you all combine it, you're not hearing wind, you're just hearing this kind of like rushing sort of sound. Then in combination with all the water and stuff really sounds like we're really punching through. We have this weird sort of rumbling reverser sound here. I believe it's like a diesel truck engine turning off, and then we reverse that sound so that it feels like a bit of a ramp up. It's a super kind of like sci-fi sort of sound, and it's tucked in there, but it gives you that sense of something big approaching. Another breach and another big roar from our shark main character here. Again, more wind here, something you don't hear underwater, but we cut a lot of the high-end stuff on this particular wind sample, and you kind of get the sensation of going into like that tunnel before we reveal our pack of sharks on the other side. Bit of a zombie sort of like groan there with a ton of reverb, sort of drowned out. Gives you like this kind of creepy transition there. It's all about combining all of these elements to create something that doesn't exist. This last section is our big storm here. So we wanted it to sound really aggressive, lots of sloshing here. The water's turning into a bit of a whirlpool. We have thunder in the background. It's getting really aggressive. You got the sharks all hopping around. So here we have, you know, obviously a bit of lightning, a bit of a storm. We have a bit of a volcano sort of rumble here. You'll see that they're all ramping up. So we wanted to give that sensation of, again, ramping up, ramping up. It's all about big hits. Let's see what else we have here. A bit of a riser. And it's all leading up to, you know, hinting at the fact it's all being contained. All this chaos is being contained in this little bottle. You'll see here we have a built kind of like this big cluster of sounds that are all fading in. For waterfall sound, giving a little bit more of that sloshing. More waves crashing. If you hear that by itself, it just sounds like a windy day at the beach. Or thunder here. More storms. More aggressive. We put a little bit of reverb there so that, you know, it doesn't just cut out completely and feel awkward. But it was really fun trying to find the sweet spot so that you get that sensation of all being sucked into this bottle. You obviously got your little static shocks here. You have a few little electric arcs to kind of work with this animation. Another big lightning right here. And one more. So you put it all together, and generally we have what we call sound design. Huge shout out to the team over at Think Motive. They really helped push this spot to another level. They really wanted to go hard on the sound design, and I'm glad we did because it turned out really awesome. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting, learned a thing or two.